Chapter 6. Hello, Nickie, how are things with you? Bill said, answering the call. Pretty good, and you? Not too bad. At least I can't complain. That's good. I called because I wanted to let you know I just had the strangest thing happen. What was that? His voice turned from casual interest to something more intense. A couple men just came to see me. I relayed the story the Guidrys had told me, and ended with, they said they'd get in touch with you and set up a meeting. Give me your impressions. I shrugged, then realized he couldn't see that. They seemed friendly enough, I didn't get the sense they were lying. What was Gavin's opinion of them? I'm not sure, he's seeing them out now. I haven't had a chance to ask him. I assume you want to shift the brother? I don't see any reason not to, assuming I can. All right, let me look into a few things and I'll figure out when and where. I'll be in touch. That's fine. You sure you're all right? I smiled at his almost fatherly concern. I'm good. Yesterday was hard and exhausting, but I think it did me good. Have you seen Alexis lately? It's been a week or so. Maybe you should talk to her again, just to make sure everything's fine. I'll try to make the time to stop and see her in the next few days. Thank you, that would make me feel better. We talked a few more minutes about my dad and what was happening with our families, then rang off. I finished with the paperwork I'd been working on when the Guidry twins had shown up and called it a day. Devin was already home when Gavin pulled the pickup into the yard. The light was on in the office, so that's where I headed first. I opened the door quietly, in case he wasn't alone or was on the phone. I found him sitting at the desk, leaning back in his chair, pinching the bridge of his nose with one hand. Hey babe, is something wrong? I moved around the desk to the back of his chair and bent to kiss his forehead. He opened his eye and looked up at me, his face instantly spread into a smile. It's just been a long day, that's all. Anything I can help with? He spun the chair enough to hook one arm around my hips and drag me into his lap. I think I've got everything handled here. But I could use a nice quiet evening with my mate. I laughed, kissed his cheek, and then laid my head on his shoulder. You need me any more today, sir? Gavin asked from where he stood next to the door. Actually, I have a list of things I need done, with names next to each of them. If you'll take a look at it and see if there's anything that needs to be added or changed, let me know. Devin reached across my body and pushed a piece of paper in the other man's direction. No problem, you need it tonight? Devin shook his head. You can take it with you and bring it back in the morning. No problem. Good night, Nickie, see you in the morning. Gavin picked up the paper and left, closing the door with a soft click. What's going on? I asked, picking my head up off his shoulder to look Devin in the face. I'm putting together a party for the pack, he said it as if it wasn't a huge undertaking. The local pack was not small. When? In a couple weeks. The Super Bowl is as good a reason as any to throw a party. I frowned. I knew there had to be some reason other than just a football game for him to want to throw a huge party, and on such short notice because he'd not mentioned anything about a party before this. Why so sudden? We need an excuse for a bonfire. My frown deepened, I didn't get it. To get rid of what's left of Jessup's body. Ah. I thought about it a second. Will a wood fire be hot enough? Won't there be bones left in the ashes? I've got that all figured out. By the time it's out, there'll be nothing left but ash. If you say so, I leaned forward to look at the papers on the desk. What can I do to help? Nothing. I've got it all taken care of. He gripped my hips and tried to pull me back against him. I turned to look at him. You sure? A party that size is going to be a lot of work. I'm sure. I've enlisted the rest of the team and farmed out a lot of it. You know, that's a sign of a good leader, knowing when and what to delegate. I let my hand draw abstract designs on the rough flannel of his shirt while I buried my nose against his neck and inhaled his familiar smoky scent. It was mixed with dust and sweat, telling me he hadn't showered since coming in from the farm. I didn't mind. I loved the way he smelled. Enough about that, I need a break. He wrapped his arms around me and set his chin on top of my head. How was your day? Good, I was quiet for a moment. Something different happened today, though. A non-shifter and his brother came into the shop looking for me. What? He tensed beneath me. I told him about my visit with the Guidry brothers and my call to Bill afterward. This isn't good. His voice was low, and I felt it rumble through my body as he continued. I don't like that we had unknown shifters in town for who knows how long, and we didn't know about them. I saw his point. I don't know how long they've been in town. They came to see me before seeing Bill, so they could have just gotten here this afternoon, or for all we know, they could have been here a couple days. I stood. As much as I like curling up with you, that chair's not a comfortable place to do it. I moved around the desk to sit in one of the chairs sitting there. Let's just go inside. It's cold out here. We can sit on the couch, or if you want, we can take another bath together. A bath sounds nice, but I'm gonna need something to eat first. He stood. Dinner, which reminds me, Bill called. He wants us to go over there for dinner tomorrow night. I told him I had to check with you first, and I'd let him know. He put on his coat, and since I was still wearing mine, he opened the door for us. Inside, I peeled out of my jacket, leaving it and my hat on the hook beside the back door, then went to the fridge to find something for dinner. What sounds good to you? You. He came up behind me and slid his arms around my waist, lowering his mouth to nuzzle and nip at the side of my neck. I closed my eyes a second, enjoying the secure warmth of his arms around me. Unfortunately, if I let you skip dinner, you won't last long enough to suit me. So we'll start with food, then move on to the fun stuff. Is that a challenge? His voice was deep and rough in my ear, sending shivers of lust through me. His arms tightened around my middle. No, just a fact. Besides, I'm starving. All right. He loosened his grip but stayed close, looking over my shoulder into the fridge. How about we heat up that lasagna? Is there enough for both of us? I hope so, there's more than half a pan. I pulled the glass pan from the fridge. He released me and I started putting together plates and reheating the food. After eating, I put what was left of the food away, rinsed our dishes, and loaded them into the dishwasher, while Devin went the other room. It didn't occur to me to wonder what he was doing until I heard the water running in our bathtub. I had just closed the dishwasher when Devin came up behind me again. How does a nice warm bath sound? He murmured against my ear. Sounds good, I said. It'll help take the chill off. If you're cold, all you had to do was say something. I can turn up the heat. It's not the house, it's because of how cold it is outside and the weather. It settles into my bones, and sometimes I have a hard time shaking it. Come on then, the tub should be nearly full. He led me into the bedroom, then disappeared into the bathroom, and I heard the water shut off. I was still unbuttoning my shirt when he came back and pushed my hands away. Let me. I can do it. I know, but I want to. I stopped arguing and let him have his way. While he finished unbuttoning my blouse, I watched him. The play of muscles under his t-shirt. The look on his face as his eyes followed his hands, with each new bit of skin revealed, his eyes brightened just a little. He was enjoying the show he was giving himself as he revealed my body. A smile slowly spread across his face as he undid the last button and let the sides of my shirt fall open. Putting his hands on my bare waist, he let them rest there for a few seconds before slowly sliding them up my torso. He caressed the sensitive skin of my abdomen as he went, lifting his hands until he was gently cupping both of my breasts over my bra. I looked down at his hands. The sun-darkened skin against the bright red lace of my bra sent a shot of heat through my belly. I looked up at his face and found his eyes not on my breasts but on my face. "You're so beautiful," he whispered as he lowered his mouth to mine. Without a second thought, I opened my mouth against his. Our tongues tangled, and without thinking about it, I lifted my arms to encircle his neck. Pushing one hand into his hair, I tugged the rubber band free and dropped it as I buried both hands in the long locks to pull him closer. My body arced, pressing itself against him, and a low moan escaped my throat. His hands left my breasts and moved around my body. One hand spread against my bare back, while the other dropped to cup my ass. Both pulled me tighter against him. I felt the thick bulge of his erection pressing against my belly. I couldn't have stopped the automatic roll of my hips if I'd tried, but I didn't bother. I didn't want to. It felt splendid, and I wanted him too much. He broke the kiss, but didn't pull his body away from mine. "Come on, baby, let's get you in the tub." "Screw the tub." I lowered my face to his neck and took a gentle bite, holding his skin between my teeth instead of biting down hard. His laugh turned to a groan as I rolled my hips against him once more. "As much as I love seeing you like this, I need to bathe, I stink. We can get in the tub of water that's already run, we can shower together, or I can take a quick one and come right back." He eased me away from his body, not pushing me away, just not holding me so tight against him. My ability to think was slow in returning. "Let's take that bath," I said, giving in. "There's nothing stopping us from continuing this once we get in there." He chuckled. "There's the Nickie I know and love." He bent and placed a swift kiss on the end of my nose, then stood and pushed the loose shirt off my shoulders, running both hands down the length of my arms. I took over undressing myself, while he took care of his own clothes and beat me to the tub. By the time I made it into the bathroom, he was already sitting in the tub, steam rising around him. I took one look and felt heat pool deep in my belly. Sliding my last piece of clothing, the red lace panties that matched my bra, off my hips, I stepped in the tub and sank into the silky water, settling with my back against his chest. "What did you put in this?" I asked, swirling one hand through the thin layer of bubbles. "Do you like it?" He ran the tip of his nose along the skin behind my ear. "Yeah, it feels great, but it's not too strong like a lot of stuff. It's a bath oil. I got it from the woman who makes your body wash. She said it would help your skin stay soft and silky. And now you'll have soft skin too. I'm probably a lost cause, but I thought you'd like it." "I do." I leaned back against him, relaxing against his body. He brought his hands up on either side of me and ran them up my arms, over my shoulders and down my chest, sliding over my breasts to rest his hands on my stomach for a moment. His fingers made absent circles over the skin of my tummy. The oil in the water made his skin feel like silk as it moved over mine. I ran my fingertips up and down his legs where they lay on either side of my body, until I felt a shiver run through him. "You play dirty, don't you?" I thought we'd already been over this. I couldn't help but grin, even though I knew he couldn't see it from behind me. I was taught to use every advantage I have. I felt his already hard cock twitch against my back and resisted the urge to arch into him, to torment him with my every movement. Shifting, I pulled my legs under me and turned around to face him. The position left much of my body uncovered by water and exposed. I didn't care. Reaching out, I slid both hands down his chest, gently skimming over the still fresh tattoo and stopping only to tease his nipples. I rolled and pinched them both, tugging gently before flicking the tips back and forth. Devin dropped his head back against the edge of the tub for a moment, as if praying for restraint, then he grabbed my waist in both hands and pulled me close. "Enough of this, come here." It took a little maneuvering, but I managed to get my legs on either side of his hips, thank goodness for large garden tubs. I sat on his lap, our groins pressed against each other. The thickness of his cock spreading the lips of my labia and pressed against my engorged clit as he pulled me close enough to lower his mouth to mine once more. Soon I was again lost in his kiss. I was aware of his hands shifting from my hips up my body until they cupped my breasts. I groaned into the kiss. The heat of his hands felt wonderful. Then he started playing with my nipples, flicking and tugging at them in turn. After a moment he cupped them once more, squeezing, kneading the flesh. I whimpered. It wasn't until he started rocking his hips that I lost all thought. The movement made his cock slide back and forth over my hard, sensitive clit, pushing all thought and reason from my head. Moments later I broke the kiss, throwing my head back as I screamed the orgasm that washed through my body, making me clench and seize. The sensations washed through my body, leaving me limp and relaxed. I leaned forward and rested against his chest a moment. Devin wrapped his arms around me, making me feel loved and cherished. I took a deep breath, inhaling the light lavender scent of the bath oil along with the smell of his skin. I let it out as a long, contented sigh, knowing I was going to have to move before too much longer. The water would start getting cold soon, and besides, I may have gotten off, but it wasn't what I wanted, not by a long shot. It had felt great, but I craved the feeling of my mate inside me. I gently probed the link between us, trying to figure out if Devin was impatient about getting his turn, but I couldn't find anything that would agree with the idea. All I could feel from him was happiness and contentment. I didn't realize the water had drained from the tub until a slight breeze moved across my skin, making me shiver. "Time to get out, baby," Devin said, gently lifting me off his lap. He climbed out of the tub and helped me do the same, then stood naked and dripping while he wrapped a towel around me and rubbed my skin warm again, removing all the water in the process. "Go climb into bed so you'll stay warm. I'll be right there." He sent me in the next room with a light smack on the butt and grabbed a dry towel off the rack. I climbed under the covers, pulling them up to my chin as I tried to get warm again. The towel had been nice, but as soon as he stopped rubbing, the chill had returned. A moment later, Devin slid in beside me, his large body wrapping around me as he pulled me against him. I sighed and melted into his warmth. After a few minutes, I rolled to face him and let my hands start to play over his body once more. I ran my fingertips in a feather-light touch over the tops and inside of his thighs, moving to one side or another as I skimmed my way to his stomach, deliberately leaving that most intimate place untouched. Using the same light touch, I ran my fingers over his belly and chest, circling and teasing his nipples one at a time. I enjoyed the way he tensed under me as I tormented the tight little buttons or any time my hand neared his groin. I could keep this up all night. The way his body responded to me made me only want to touch him more. But not tonight. I'd come once, but I still ached to feel him inside me, filling me as only he could. Pushing the blankets down his chest, I bent low enough to take one nipple into my mouth. I licked and sucked, teasing the other nipple with my fingertips. After a moment I couldn't resist and I gently bit the tender skin. At the same time I played my hand down his chest to his hip. I drew small circles on the thin skin over his hip bone before dropping my hand between his legs to cup his balls. Gently I rolled the sensitive orbs in my palm, gripping them just tight enough for Devin to let out a strained groan. "Nickie baby, I need more." I looked up at him through my lashes, a mischievous smile playing across my lips. "If you want more, you're gonna have to take it." I bit the tiny button and tugged a second before releasing it. "I'm just going to keep teasing you until you can't take it anymore and do what I want." I drew tiny circles along the inside of his thigh. A deep growl rumbled through his chest. He hooked his hands under my arms and lifted me until my head hit the pillow as he rolled until he was on top. "You make me crazy, baby." His voice had gone deep and vibrated through me, sending a shot of fire through my belly. I smiled back. That was exactly what I had wanted. Devin ran his hands down my body, not the light touch I'd used but firm, possessive. I reveled in every caress. He cupped and squeezed my breasts, then moved down, skimming over my hips to just above my knees. With strong hands he pushed my knees apart, not that it took much strength. I was eager to let him in. "You're gonna pay for teasing me." He looked at me through half-closed eyes as he lowered his mouth to one nipple. Biting and tugging, he tormented me until I couldn't lay still. Then he moved to the other side and gave it the same treatment. Burying my hands in his hair, I pulled him closer. I loved the intimate attention and wanted it to go on forever. Devin moved back and forth between my breasts, alternately massaging the full mounds and teasing the sensitive tips until I was on the verge of orgasm. I could feel it just out of reach when he suddenly stopped and pulled himself from my grasp. I whimpered. So close, so close. I bet you're wishing you hadn't tormented me now, aren't you? I whimpered again. I ache. I knew my voice edged on whine, but I was so far gone I didn't care. All I cared about was getting him inside me, filling me. What is it you want? He ran a finger in a feather-light circle around one of my nipples. My body arched, reaching for more of his touch. You. Now. What exactly is it you want from me? His light tone told me he was enjoying this. You. Do you want me to make you come? He trailed his finger down my abdomen and between my thighs. Yes, but I could barely put the words together to tell him what I needed. But what? His finger dipped low, into the moisture I knew was leaking from my core, then came up again to circle my clit. Inside. I closed my eyes and tried to block out the sensations from my body long enough to form a sentence. I need you inside me. Now. Like this? He pushed one thick finger inside me. I let out a soft moan. As good as it felt, it wasn't enough. Your cock. I need your cock inside me. Please. That last word was more gasped than spoken as he slid a second finger to join the first and started curling them, looking for the small sensitive spot at the front of me. He worked his fingers over the area for a few seconds, and I lost all control. The wave of pleasure that had been waiting just out of reach crashed over me. My head went back into the pillow, and my body clenched around his fingers. I knew when he withdrew because I suddenly felt empty and aching again, despite the pleasure washing through me. Slowly, I came down from the peaks of pleasure and became aware of Devin hovering over me, his knees between mine, holding his weight off me with hands on either side of my shoulders. I looked up at him and gave him a soft smile. Well, that took the edge off. You ready for more? Always? He lowered himself over me, his erection lining up with my slick opening. He let it rest there for a moment as he lowered his mouth to mine with a long, hard kiss. I couldn't resist the urge to roll my hips against him, wordlessly begging. Sure. I just orgasmed, but it wasn't enough. I ached to have him fill me. Wrapping one arm around his waist, I slid it low until I could grip his ass. My other arm went around his neck, my fingers snaking into his hair. Using both hands, I tried to pull his body up mine, forcing his cock inside me. It didn't work. Even as strong as I was, he was stronger. A little impatient, aren't you? He asked, breaking the kiss. You just got some, and you want me so bad already. It wasn't enough, I breathed. It wasn't you, not like I need you. He moved carefully, slowly pushing himself through the slick heat leaking from me and ever so slowly pressing himself inside. Like this? Not enough. I had to take several deep breaths before I could continue. It felt like he'd barely moved at all, like he was teasing me with just the tip of him. I need you hard, baby. Rough. I stretched up and set my teeth into the muscles at the side of his neck, not biting hard, just enough for him to feel it. A rough growl vibrated through him. You shred my control when you do that. In one swift move, he thrust his entire length into me. I gasped in surprise. You okay? He asked, instantly gentling his touch. Never better. Do it again. I licked the spot where I'd bitten him, hoping to stir a similar reaction. You're sure? Positive. He pulled out until only the tip of his cock remained inside me, then thrust forward again. The force of his thrust made me slide up the bed, and my head bumped the headboard. In order to stop it from happening again, Devon leaned on his forearms and, running his arms under my back, gripped my shoulders so I wouldn't move away from him as he once more pulled out and thrust hard. I moaned. I loved the feeling of him pushing deep inside me, filling me. He set a furious pace, and before I knew it, my body was clenching around him. My eyes rolled back in my head, and my fingers curled into his skin as another wave of pleasure washed over me. Devon's pace never slowed. He powered his way through my tightening channel over and over, making my orgasm stretch into another. I lost count of how many times the pleasure washed over me. The final wave was so intense I couldn't stop the scream that escaped my throat. I screamed my mate's name, then instinct led me to bite his shoulder again, just as I had months earlier when we'd sealed our mating. As my teeth sank into his flesh, I felt the pleasure sting of his teeth on my own neck. The added sensation sent me over the edge of pleasure once more, and I may have come so hard I passed out. The next thing I knew, Devon was peeling the blankets off me and using a warm wet washcloth to clean me up. "Thanks, baby," I mumbled, so relaxed I could barely form the words. He tossed the washcloth into the laundry basket and crawled back in bed beside me, pulling the covers over us both. "No problem." He pulled me close against him. "I may have gone a little too far this time." He spoke against my hair. "What makes you say that?" "You were completely out of it. I couldn't get you to respond at all." A slow smile spread across my face before it occurred to me that he probably couldn't see it in the dark. "I feel great. I loved every minute of it." "But how much do you remember?" He sounded worried. "All of it. Unless you kept going after you bit me." "I didn't mean to do that, baby," he said softly. I felt his tongue move over the spot where he'd bitten me, as if trying to soothe any sting that might have been left. It didn't sting. In fact, his touch made heat build in my belly again. "You want another round?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not sure I'm up to it just yet." "Why?" "'Cause you keep licking me there, and I'll stir the energy to jump you again. The way you're all relaxed, I'm not sure you could." His tongue swiped over the spot once more. I rolled my hips back against his. "I'm not sure I could either, but you keep it up and I'll be horny enough to try." He licked me once more. "The idea is intriguing." I summoned the energy to roll to face him and stretched up to run my tongue over his scar. Between us, I felt his cock stir and start to harden. Two can play at this game. I laved my tongue over the spot again. If he was gonna make me want more, even as relaxed and satisfied as I was going to do the same to him. We teased and tormented each other a while longer before he rolled me to my back and slowly pressed inside. With soft, gentle kisses and sweet caresses, he made love to me in a way we rarely did. Usually we were too eager to go slow, to take our time caressing each other and whispering love words in each other's ears. By the time we'd both found another earth-shattering orgasm, it was all I could do to keep my eyes open, and once he rolled to the side, I curled up against him, pillowed my head on his shoulder, and fell into a deep, restful sleep.